Hi, my name is Sophia. I'm 69 years old, and I never imagined I'd one day stand outside my daughter's house. The very house I gave her out of love, being told I had to pay rent just to step inside. But it happened. It's still difficult to say those words aloud because in my heart, I believed that family meant unconditional love. That when you give from your soul, it's cherished, honored, remembered. But my story taught me something I never thought I'd learn in my old age. Sometimes, the ones you love the most are the ones who break you the deepest. Let me take you back to where it all began, a place I now wish I had never left. When my husband Edward passed away suddenly 10 years ago, my world shattered. He was my rock, my partner in everything. We had built a modest but beautiful life together, not with riches, but with patience, struggle, and love. We had a little countryside home, surrounded by peach trees, with chipped white shutters and a porch swing he built with his own hands. That house had history, memories. It was where we raised our daughter, Andrea. After Edward's funeral, everything felt different. The house was quiet, too quiet. Every creak in the wood reminded me of him. I couldn't bear to stay even, though it was the only home I had ever truly felt safe in. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I sold it. I used every penny from that sale, every cent my husband and I had earned and saved over decades, to buy Andrea a house in the city. A clean, 3-bedroom brick home with a small yard, good schools nearby, and a park just down the block. She was struggling then. Her marriage had just ended. Her husband had walked out on her and the 2 kids, my grandbabies, without a word. Andrea called me sobbing that night, her voice cracking, telling me she couldn't make rent and didn't know what to do. I didn't hesitate. I said, "Come live with me. Or better yet, let me get you a place of your own." She resisted at first, but I insisted. That's what mothers do, right? I bought the house in her name. I told her it was hers, a fresh start. I didn't want her to worry about paying me back. I wanted her to have something I never did: stability. I even helped decorate it. Painted the kids' rooms myself, sewed curtains, planted roses along the fence. At the time, Andrea cried in my arms and said, "You're the best mom in the world." It warmed me. For the first couple of years, things were wonderful. She invited me over every weekend. I became part of the kids' lives: school pickups, weekend baking, bedtime stories. Andrea even left the front gate unlocked because, as she said, "Mom's always welcome." But like all good things, something changed. It started slowly, subtle. She stopped calling as often. My Sunday visits turned into occasional quick stops. The kids seemed more distracted, less excited to see me. I figured they were just growing up. But Andrea, her tone changed. She seemed distant, more impatient. She stopped asking for help and started making little comments about needing space. Then came Rick. Her new boyfriend. Flashy car, cocky smile. He had this way of looking around like everything belonged to him. I didn't trust him, not because he was new, but because of how Andrea changed around him. She acted different, polished, like she had something to prove. Soon, my name was no longer on the emergency school forms. I stopped getting birthday invitations for the grandkids. Once, I stopped by unannounced and found the locks had been changed. Andrea said it was for security. Still, I didn't say anything. I swallowed my pride. I reminded myself that I gave her that home freely. I wanted her to feel ownership. But deep down, something began to ache. One day, a rainy, grey Tuesday, I made a pot of chicken soup. My grandson had a cold, and I remembered how much she loved my cooking. I bundled up, walked 3 blocks, in the drizzle with the pot tucked in a towel, and rang Andrea's doorbell. She opened it halfway, holding her phone. She looked annoyed. "Hi, Mom, what's going on?" I held up the soup and smiled. "I heard Liam was sick. Thought this might help." She took it but didn't invite me in. Her tone was flat. "Thanks, but we're a bit busy today." Then, before I could say anything, she pulled an envelope from the entry table and handed it to me. "What's this?" I asked. "A rental agreement," she said without blinking. "Rick and I talked. We've noticed you've been around more lately. And well, we're trying to be more structured with expenses. If you're going to use the guest room or spend nights here, it's only fair you contribute." I stood there stunned. "Rent? You want me to pay rent to be in the house I bought? The house I gave you?" She looked me in the eye and said something I will never forget. "You gave it to me, Mom. It's mine now. And if you want to stay here, even occasionally, there needs to be boundaries." I didn't say a word. I turned. I walked away. I didn't even feel the rain that soaked my coat on the way back home. That night, I sat alone in my 1-bedroom apartment, the place I had moved into, so Andrea could have something better. And I stared at the envelope. She wanted to charge me for being her mother, for caring, for loving. And that's when something snapped. I had never asked her for anything. I had never tried to control her. But this was betrayal. And worse, it was betrayal wrapped in entitlement. She thought I was weak, that I had no fight left in me, that I would fold like always. But she forgot one thing. I may be old, but I'm not done. And if she wanted to talk about boundaries, then she was about to find out exactly what those meant. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my worn armchair by the window, the city lights blinking in the distance, Andrea's words echoing in my head like a broken record. "It's mine now. If you want to stay, you'll have to pay rent." Rent, for the house I bought. For her. I kept turning the envelope over in my lap. The rental agreement was typed neatly, printed on glossy white paper, like it was a business transaction, like I was a tenant, and not the mother who gave up everything for her. My hands trembled not from age this time, but from anger. I remembered the day I handed her the keys. She cried, sighed, "I'll never forget this, Mom." But she had forgotten. Or worse, she remembered, and simply didn't care. She thought I was soft, that I'd keep letting it happen. But she underestimated me. The next morning, I made some calls. Not angry ones. Calm, strategic ones. First, to the real estate attorney, who helped close the purchase all those years ago. Second, to my accountant, who still had the paperwork on file. Because here's something my dear daughter forgot. Yes, the house was in her name, but I still held legal leverage. When I bought that house, I never signed it over as a full gift. I kept a transfer on death clause for tax reasons. The house didn't technically belong to Andrea until I passed, or until I legally released it. And guess what? I never did. That clause meant I still had authority to revoke or modify the terms. And while she might have forgotten, the law did single quotes T.3 days later, I walked into her house unannounced, my name still on the property management files, allowing me legal access. I didn't knock. I used the spare key I'd kept hidden in the backyard birdhouse. Rick was on the couch, watching TV in his socks, sipping from a beer can. He looked up like I was an intruder. "You can't just walk in here," he said, getting up. I ignored him and went straight to the kitchen where Andrea was wiping down the counters. She turned and froze. "Mum, what are you?" I dropped. A manila envelope on the counter. That's a notice. I'm reclaiming the house. Andrea blinked, confused. What are you talking about? I took a deep breath. The house title never fully transferred to you. It's under a toward clause, which I never finalized. That means I still legally own this home. And as of this week, I filed paperwork to revoke your occupancy. She started to laugh. You can't be serious. I'm serious, I said. And unless you can show proof that you've bought the house from me, which you haven't, you are now legally required to vacate within 30 days. Rick chimed in, puffing up his chest. You're kicking out your own daughter? I looked him dead in the eye. No, I'm kicking out the woman who told her mother to pay rent for the home she was given in love. Andrea's face crumpled. She stammered, her voice losing all that sharp edge. Mom, wait. I didn't mean it like that. We were just stressed. Rick said we needed some financial boundaries. I held up my hand. I taught you boundaries. I taught you sacrifice. And this is how you thank me. By treating me like a burden. Like I'm a guest in the life I helped build. She went quiet. I raised you to be grateful. But somewhere along the way, you forgot what love looks like. I won't be shamed or used any longer. Rick opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I want you both out by the end of the month. I turned and left. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I walked out of that house with my head high and heart steady. Because for the first time in years, I had drawn a line. A real one. And I wasn't backing down. And you know what the saddest part is? I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it to save myself. And sometimes, that's the hardest kind of love there is. After Andrea handed me that rental agreement, I walked out of her house in complete silence. Not because I didn't have anything to say, I had plenty, but because I knew if I opened my mouth, I would break. The betrayal ran deeper then. I could express in words. I had given her everything. I didn't just hand her a house. I handed her a future. I gave her peace when she had chaos. I gave her a home when she had nothing. And now, she wanted to charge me rent. I sat in my car in the driveway for almost 10 minutes before I could even turn the ignition. My hands were trembling. I stared at the home, the same home I had bought with my husband's life insurance. Now a place where I was being treated like an intruder. I wasn't angry yet. Not truly. I was just numb. But numbness is often the first step before the storm. That night, I went home and pulled out the deed. I still had a copy in my filing cabinet. And sure enough, even though I gave Andrea the house, I had never transferred the full legal ownership. I was still the rightful owner. I had paid for it, maintained it, even paid the taxes for the first 3 years after giving it to them. They never even asked me to sign anything. Legally, it was still mine. I had meant to give it to her as a gift, out of love, out of a mother's hope to ease her child's struggle. But she had never once asked me to finalize it, probably because she assumed I was too naive, too generous to ever take it back. She underestimated me. Over the next few days, I started paying attention. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't show up on Sundays like usual. I stopped bringing groceries, stopped baking banana bread for Emma, stopped folding their laundry. And no one, not a single one of them, called to check on me. Instead, Andrea texted me once. Hey, haven't seen the rent yet. Just a reminder. It's due by the 5th. No, how are you? No, are you okay? Just a demand. Just a deadline. Like I was a tenant and she was my landlord. That text lit something inside me. All these years, I thought I was doing the right thing, giving, helping, loving unconditionally. But somewhere along the way, Andrea stopped seeing me as a mother. I had become a resource. A wallet. A backup plan. Nothing more. And now that I had nothing more to give freely, she wanted to take . So I made a decision. One that took me weeks to accept. I contacted my lawyer. His name was Mr. Clayton, a quiet older gentleman who handled our family's legal affairs when Thomas was alive. He looked through the paperwork and confirmed what I suspected. Yes, Sophia. You're still the owner of the property. Your daughter may be living in it, but without a formal agreement or deed transfer, she has no legal claim. I nodded slowly. And what happens if I want them out? He paused, then said gently, Then we file for eviction. The word felt heavy. Final. Ugly. But strangely liberating. I stared out the window of his office, watching the wind bend the tree branches. I don't want to hurt her, I whispered. I just wanted to help. He folded his hands. Helping doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. And that stuck with me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, thinking of Emma's baby giggles in the house. The Christmas mornings I spent decorating their tree. The times I snuck little $20 bills into Andrea's purse when she said she was broke. But when I thought of that rental agreement, of her cold eyes as she handed it to me, I realized something. Heartbreaking. She had already let go of me. I was holding on to a version of her that no longer existed. The next morning, I signed the papers. We sent the official notice to vacate too. Days later, Andrea called me the minute she got it. Furious. Are you out of your mind, Mom? What is this? I took a deep breath and kept my voice calm. It's a notice. You have 30 days to vacate the property. You're seriously evicting your own daughter. No, I'm evicting people who no longer treat me like family. There was silence on the line. Then she exploded. You're insane. After everything we've done for you. We let you stay here. We've put up with your nagging, your unannounced visits. And now you're just what? Throwing us out? I smiled, bitterly. Andrea, I gave you a house, and you gave me a bill. Then I hung up. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Not because it was easy, but because I knew it was finally time to stop letting people take advantage of my kindness, even if they were my own flesh and blood. The weeks following the eviction notice were a whirlwind of emotions. I expected guilt, doubt, maybe even regret. But strangely, I felt clarity. I wasn't doing this out of spite. I was doing it because I had spent too many years letting people walk all over me, all in the name of love. And this time, love wasn't going to blind me to the truth. Andrea, however, didn't take it well. She bombarded me with angry texts, accusing me of betrayal. One moment she was screaming, the next begging. I didn't mean it, Mom. You're seriously going to make your granddaughter homeless? Fine. Take the stupid house. We'll go. You've always been cold. No wonder Dad kept secrets from you. That last one stung more than I expected. And it wasn't even true. She was trying to hurt me. She was lashing out because I had taken away the thing she believed she had total control over me. But I didn't respond. Not once. Because for once, I owed her nothing. 30 days passed. And despite all the drama, the door to that house never opened. The lights stayed on. The car was in the driveway. They were still there. I waited. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she'd realize how far she'd strayed and leave on her own. But on day 31, I drove by the house and saw laundry hanging on the porch, children's toys scattered in the yard, and Emma's scooter parked like it had never been touched. She thought I was bluffing. She thought her tantrums, Her manipulation, her guilt trips would make me back down like I always did. That's when I called the lawyer again. File the formal eviction, I told Mr. Clayton. They're not leaving. I expected it to take weeks, maybe months. But then, out of nowhere, Andrea sent me a message. Don't bother with the court. We'll leave by the end of the week. There was no apology, no explanation, just resignation. But she still had one last card to play. That Saturday I arrived. With the movers. I had decided to rent the home out, use the income to support the local shelter I volunteered at. If my own daughter didn't value my generosity, maybe someone else could benefit from it. When we pulled into the driveway, I was met with silence. No bags packed. No signs of moving. Andrea sat on the porch, arms crossed, glaring at me like a stranger. Her husband Mark was on the couch inside, pretending I didn't exist. Emma wasn't in sight. The movers stood awkwardly on the lawn, unsure if they should start. I walked up the steps slowly. Andrea, I said, voice firm but even. You said you'd be out by today. We're not ready, she snapped. Emma's sick. I blinked. Then where is she? No answer. I took a deep breath and signaled the movers to begin. You have 1 hour, I said. I'm not here to argue anymore. And that's when she exploded. She followed me into the house, shouting insults, throwing every emotional dagger she could muster. She accused me of abandoning her, of being heartless, of putting money before family. Family? I stopped and turned to her. Family doesn't hand you a rent bill after you gift them a home. Family doesn't treat you like a burden when all you've done is sacrifice. Tears welled in her eyes, but whether they were from guilt or rage, I couldn't tell. She tried to guilt-trip me again. Told me Emma would be traumatized. That she'd grow up thinking her grandma hated her. That one almost broke me. But I stood my ground. No, Andrea. Emma will grow up knowing that love has boundaries, that even a grandmother has a line, and that people who love you don't use you. By sunset they were gone. The house was empty. Quiet. For the first time in years, it felt like mine again. I walked through each room slowly. Memories rushing back, Christmases with Thomas, late nights baking cookies with Andrea when she was a child, the nursery we painted together before Emma was born. So much love lived in those walls, and yet so much pain had been buried there too. I stood in the living room, sunlight streaming in through the window, and whispered to myself, this isn't how I wanted it to end. But maybe it's how it needed to. Weeks passed. Andrea didn't contact me. Emma didn't call. The silence was heavy. But honest. I poured myself into volunteering. I fixed up the house. Planted a new garden. Eventually, I rented it out to a sweet young couple just starting their life together. They sent me handwritten thank you notes. Called me Miss Sophia. Baked me pies. And for the first time in a long time, I felt appreciated. I still miss Andrea, and I pray for her and Emma every night. But I no longer live under the weight of someone else's entitlement. Sometimes the hardest thing a parent can do is let go. But sometimes letting go is the only way to survive.